Hey everybody, I'm Todd and this is Sweet Tea Guitars. Thank you so much for stopping by the channel and welcome to my life. Alright you guys, so I just released my latest episode, which was episode 10 for the Cloud 9 build, my entry into the Great Guitar Build Off 2022. I released that video yesterday morning. Today is Monday the 15th of August. As you guys know, I've been bouncing back and forth between my Great Guitar Build Off project and this figure 8 build that I'm building for the doctor friend of mine. I've got the guitar right here. This guitar is super lightweight at this point. We got a mahogany body, curly maple center stripe, white maple on the outside of that, Wingate veneer separating that, 2 outside pieces of hard rock maple, 2 inner pieces of Oregon myrtle wood, and then that center strip is Murado or Bolivian rosewood. I've got all that separated by Wingate veneer. I've got the crop circle design cut into the headstock right there. I'm really happy with how this has turned out so far, you guys. I love this headstock. We're gonna get back to work on this guitar. What I feel like we need to do in this episode is get this body sorted, sanded, get our wiring paths drilled, get this body carved down into the neck profile. I will sand and get my volute straightened out, make sure that's all fluid up in this area. We'll sand all this smooth. I'll get the tuners drilled in. I will not put frets on this guitar until after the top's glued on and I'm certain everything's sorted. I don't want to take a chance on scarring up my fretboard and not having the opportunity to sand that scar out of it before I get frets put on here. Now that the neck's glued into the body, there's really no reason for us to be in a hurry to fret this thing. We could do that, you know, near the end, honestly. I'll flip this guitar over and let's just start working on this carve right here. We'll get everything ready on this guitar to start putting the top on and thinking about getting some finish put on this thing. We're getting close, you guys. I'm going to use this neck rest just so we don't scar our fretboard up. And I'm going to start to work down in this area right here. I'm not so much worried about scarring up my body right now, because we got lots of sanding left to do. I'll spin this thing around. And we'll work right here. You guys will be able to see that a little better too. Now I want to start to ramp this down right here. I'm going to clean all this up right here with some finer carving tools once I get these contours and these bevels and everything I'm planning on doing back here on the back of this body. We'll clean all this up right here. I don't really have a plan. I'm just going at it. I mean, I've got a vision in my head of what I want this to look like when I'm done. But I'm letting that be my guide right now. I'm just ramping this down right here so as you come up into the upper registers of the fretboard, it's not causing you to feel that blocky, chunky feeling that you could be feeling if I left that hole like that. So I'm using the little karate rasp. This thing has become one of my favorite tools in the shop. So we're already way better than we were to start with. Once I get close right here to getting this level with the rest of my neck profile, I want to stop and we'll switch over to some finer cutting tools at that point. So right here on my hill transition, I want there to be no defining corner, edge, anything like that as you move up the profile into this area. Now it's going to grow in thickness obviously, but I want that to be a smooth transition, not hard, I want your hand to just naturally flow up onto that. That is turning out just killer. Very smooth, very comfortable up into my body area. What I'm thinking about doing at this point is deepening up my fret slots real quick. I could not glue this neck in after the fact. It had to be glued in now because of the taper. I could not slide the neck in from this direction. What I'm going to do, I'm going to set my tang depth on this saw. So there we go. I've used a scrap piece of Centom's fret wire. I've laid it down there so my actual bottom of my crown is riding on the saw teeth. And then I just looked and make sure that I am deeper than the tang itself, and I am about 1/2 millimeter. I'm going to start on this end to go ahead and get this nervous part over with. The reason I want to do this now, so I can go ahead and clean my radius up if I need to. I want to remove all the chances that I can of scarring up this beautiful walnut top once I glue that thing on here. You know, I want to take care of these kind of things where I'm getting around it with sharp teeth and claws and things. You guys know what I mean. Because if I hit this alder with the saw, I'm not that worried about that. You know, I can clean that up with a little sandpaper. So this is 360 grit right here. Now we're going to go straight from 360 to 600 grit. All right, so there's 600 grit. I'm not going to go any further than that right now. That way I don't have to take a chance on, you know, nicking my fretboard or whatever. And as long as I don't nick it majorly, we won't have a problem getting that out of there before we go all the way up to 3000 grit, which is where I like to sand my fretboards to. My P90 is going to go right down in here. I think what I should do is cut myself a chunk. It only has to be about that wide, and glue it down in here for my P90 pickup screws to mount into, so I do not have to worry about changing the screws, and I've got plenty of distance, and I can preserve the thickness on the back of this body without having to worry about going through the back with my screws. So I thought gluing a piece of this maple down in here that'll cover those screws for the P90s would be a good idea. So we only need a piece about, I would say, 3 inches long, a little bit wider than the total length, the total width of the fretboard, and I think we'll be fine. I'll glue this rough side down so we get a nice bond to it. This does not have to be pretty. You will not see this from the top. I mean, I don't want it to look like, you know, to look terrible, but it will not be seen. This is going to be under the pickup. I've cut myself a block to glue down in there, and I took it over to the spindle sander and I cut the corner off of it so it hugs that little hump I've got down in there, which is a neck stop right here. So when I go to glue this in at the end of the night tonight, that can sit and hug that area right there. I'll clamp that in. That will allow me to move my pickup a little bit further away from the bridge. But before we move any further, I've drilled 2 tuner holes in here already just to make sure that these pilot holes I've got on the back were going to be sufficient to keeping me off of my crop circles. And I'm calling them crop circles because someone else on the in the comments called them that, and I thought it was pretty cool. I got the 8mm drill bit mounted up in the drill press right now, and I kind of wanted to get these tuners drilled in, at least the 8mm part of them. I think we're going to do the 10mm part with a step drill bit I've got right here, and we'll do it by hand. I've already got these marked out, and I'm holding the guitar even with one hand. I probably should have done this before I mounted the neck to the body, but quite honestly, I forgot. We've successfully avoided our crop circles. Now it just looks like it's got a bunch of holes in the headstock, but it won't look like that once we put our tuners in. We're going to take and mount our step drill bit So our fourth step in this drill bit is our 10mm one. That's the one we want to use from the back here. And what I'm going to do is take it the depth of that step, and when it starts getting up into the next size up, we'll stop. That I've already looked at it, and that is not all the way through the headstock, so we should be fine. That's plenty deep enough to handle the expanded shaft size on the tuner. All right, so we're nice and clean on the front, no tear out. We're nice and clean on the back, no tear out. Let's pop these tuners in here, dry fit these things, and sort this out and make sure we're going to be okay. There's where we are, you guys. We got nice clearance on our tuner buttons. That shouldn't be an issue. Drilling in tuners can be really nerve-wracking. You always worry about tear outs, you worry about alignment, you worry about all those things. Now, I took a little bit more time sorting out this tuner layout than I did on the Cloud 9 build. The Cloud 9, I kind of made it up as I went. I used a PRS tuner layout on this guitar. All I did was shift one side of this up 1/4 of an inch to get my tabs out of the way and to allow me to be able to use whatever kind of tuner I wanted to and not run into issues with the tabs running into each other. So that's why I did the offset. Plus it allowed me to create a brand new headstock shape, which I like this headstock shape better than I do the one on the Cloud 9 build even. It's a little thinner up in here. It's a little longer than the Cloud 9, but the offset has really done something for it. And with the tuners in here, the crop circles look exactly as I had hoped they would. Before we can glue the top on, I need to get that block of wood placed down in there and get it glued. I'm going to want to let this sit overnight to cure. So we're going to glue this in. By the end of this 2-week cycle, I really want to be up to the point that I'm ready to wipe some finish on this guitar, if not already wiping finish on this guitar. I don't think that's going to be a problem to get to that point. As long as the top's on this guitar by the end of this episode, I'm fine with that. Grab myself a couple of little, just thin pieces of wood right here that I can guard the back of my body with mainly. I've cut myself off another little piece of this to act as a clamping caul that I can get some pressure down on here without having to run my clamp in too far. So right here's where we're going. I'm going to raise this thing up off the table a little so we can get our clamp up under here without having to fight too much. I'm just going to apply some glue to the back of this thing. I want plenty of glue, but I don't want to go overboard. I want to get some on this little carve that I did as well so it can hug up on that thing, on that little hump that I've got down in the body. And I want to place that as far forward as I can. I'm going to put this on top of it. We're going to put this underneath. Now that should give us plenty of room for our pickup to be mounted. We will check the depth of this block of wood before I glue the top on to make sure I don't need to take any of the height off. So if I do, we can do that. But what that's going to allow us to do is have a separate block in front of our bridge to drill the 2 mounting holes down for our P90 pickup that's going in this guitar without having to go into our mahogany. That Appel wood glue has proven to be really great glue. All right, you guys, we're back in the shop. It is Friday, August the 19th today. When we left off the other night, we were working on this hill shape, getting this neck shaped out like we wanted to. It's really comfortable. I still got a ton of sanding left to do on this guitar. I also glued this block in here to hold the mounting screws for the P90 pickup that we're using in this guitar. So that's what that block's doing there. That gives me a nice, stable, thick piece of wood right there to mount that P90 to. I won't have an issue of there being so much space in between the bottom of this cavity and the bottom of the pickup. I want that to be as little space as possible. That pretty much brings us to a point to where we're ready to glue this top on. I drilled a hole right here, and that is for my pickup wire. That is the only wiring path that I needed to have drilled before I put this top on here, because I can fish a thin piece of wire up through that hole, tape my pickup wire to it, pull it back into the control cavity. We won't have any issues. I was pretty careful about how I routed that and which direction it took. So it's pretty much, if I run a wire up through there, it's pretty much going to expose itself where the pickup route is. And that's what I was shooting for. Let's take a look at this top before we glue this thing on here. You guys, I am so excited about this. This is my top set. This is a piece of walnut that I got from C. Jacobs Woods. This is a beautiful piece of wood. I've got this sanded smooth on the back. We got the glue joint clean. Everything's nice and flat. There's no valleys in here or anything like that. I did not do that to the front of this guitar because I know I'm going to have a ton of sanding to do anyway. So on the front of this top, I left that just like it was when it came out of glue up. There's not much to do, but let's just get to this, you guys. I'm going to glue this top on here. We'll talk for just a minute about what's coming next on this build, and then we're going to wrap this video up so I can get this thing released on Sunday morning. I've got this raised up off the table so I can get my clamps up under here and not have to be fiddling about with this thing. I'm going to get my little mallet because I know we're going to have to tap our top set up under the neck, or up under the fretboard, I mean. Before I do this, you guys, remember, I made this profile right here. I've got some measurements written down on my table over here, how far I am from the edge of this guitar to the start of my bridge block, and how far I am from the edge to the end of my bridge block. And I can use this for placement once we get the top at a clamp and this thing's ready to start working on. At least that way I'll know where that falls. So that's why I made this paper template. I bought myself some of these things right here, these silicone glue brushes. It's a Silla brush. I got these on Amazon. It was like $15 for the kit. It came with both of these brushes, one wide, one narrow. It came with a spreader that's got like brush tines on it. It's got a squeegee right here, and that's also made out of silicone. And then it came with this little glue tray, which I thought was pretty cool. 15 bucks on Amazon. Silla brush. But I'm going to use the 1-inch. And if this was a full body, I'd probably use that little squeegee tool and use that. But since we've got all this open space right here, I don't need to worry about that. So I've got myself a bunch of clamping cauls and things I can use as clamping cauls. I got all my clamps out over here on the other side of the table. I've got a piece of Purple Heart right here. I've got another piece over here. I've got this piece of maple, a couple of other pieces of maple, and a bunch of little strips of maple right here that we can use to keep from scarring our top up. It needs plenty of glue. All right, I want to make sure I get a nice bond to this wood, because being a hollow body, there's going to be resonant frequencies going on down inside this cavity. And if I leave any voids where I don't get any glue, or it does not make good contact with this body wood, it could cause a buzz that could literally ruin this guitar. You could fix it, but you know, it would not be an easy thing, and I don't want that to happen. It's not super hot today, so I'm not worried about this glue starting to go off too quick on me. I'm going to place this right here. We'll get that fit down on there. I want to press this down, soft side of my mallet, and I want to tap this up under my fretboard. That looks good. Now, I've made myself two little marks on the side of the body that let me know where I can place this piece of maple right here, I know that I'll get nice solid contact with my bridge block that's down inside of there. And I'm going to take my deep reach clamps, or at least one of them, and make sure I hit that spot. And I don't have to torque this down on here. Just want it nice and snug. Okay. And instead of using up my screw clamps on the side of this, since I've got those deep reach, I'll use these Irwin quick clamps on the side right here. There, there. All right, now I want to take this piece of Purple Heart and I'm going to clamp this across the back. I'm not so much worried about the back of my body. I'm not going to torque these clamps down too hard. I just want to make sure I'm getting nice squeeze out, which I am already. I got good squeeze out there. All right. I don't even want to attempt to lift that thing. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for the top glue up at least. I am so happy with how this thing is turning out. I love this Zerakote fretboard on this thing. I absolutely love this walnut top. It's my first hollow body build, and I feel like I've done a pretty decent job on it, so I hope you guys agree with that. We're going to let this top set up overnight. I'll come down tomorrow. We'll start the last week of the 2-week cycle on this go-round for the figure 8 build. I'm really hoping by the end of this next week that I'm ready to start wiping some finish on this thing. When you think about it, we don't really have that much more to do. Most of it is detail work, which I absolutely love doing. What you guys are going to see really soon is me starting to wipe some oil on this thing. And I'm probably going to go with the Osmo Satin hard wax oil on this guitar. I thought about using True Oil and getting a high gloss finish on it, but I really think this guitar is going to benefit from a satin finish. I think it'll give it a much more organic look. The 28th of August, I will update you guys where I'm at on the 7 of 9 build as well. I'm not going to show it to you because I don't want to reveal the guitar to Wes, but I should be about to the point that I'm going to be on this guitar by that time. And this is going to conclude episode 10 of the figure 8 build. Now, this is the end of the first week in this 2-week cycle I'm doing on this guitar this time. I've been bouncing back and forth between this guitar and the Cloud 9 build since I started these ultimately. I'm going to continue on that path until I get to the point that I'm ready to start finishing these guitars. I've been thinking about possibly releasing a combined video of this guitar and the Cloud 9 build as kind of a sidebar tutorial on how to go about finishing a guitar with an oil-based hand-rubbed finish. These two guitars are getting finished differently. I'm using a satin hard wax oil on the figure 8 build, not glossy. I want the wood to be the feature on the figure 8 build. On the Cloud 9 build, it's going to be a little bit flashier because I'm going to have the natural bevels. I'm going to keep natural. The top I'm going to do with that linear blue fade, purple to light blue. We're going to top coat both of these guitars, however, with oil. But the Cloud 9 build's getting color. I will seal it, make sure I've got all the grain covered, at least on the maple on the front. On this guitar, I actually want the grain to show. So I thought that may be a good idea, and I can use that as an opportunity to film a pretty comprehensive video on how I go about oil finishing a guitar. If you would like to see something like that, leave me a comment and let me know, because I'm thinking about doing that. You know, if you don't want to see that, or if you would rather I didn't combine these two guitars together for that project, then that's fine. Just let me know. If you haven't already, please give a thought to hitting that subscribe button. hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date as to where I'm at on all this stuff that I got going on in the shop right now. We're coming down to the end of these guitars, you guys. I'm ordering the case for this guitar next weekend. On October the 1st, I'm going to be announcing the next giveaway here on the channel. I'm giving another guitar away. I'm probably not going to start building that guitar until around January. That will become clear to you as to why I'm doing it that way shortly. I've got some really exciting news that I'm going to share with you guys after the Great Guitar Build-Off's over. So you guys stay tuned to the channel for that. It's really important that you hit that notification bell because I've got some really killer content coming down the pipe, you guys, and I really hope you guys are going to enjoy it. Don't forget to stop by Tornella Guitars and tell Geo Sweet Tea said hello. Go hit up Brett from Luther Builds and also let him know that Sweet Tea said hey. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you think about this build. Again, let me know what you think about combining these two guitars for a tutorial video on the finish. Leave me a thumbs up. And as always, you guys, until the next video, peace and love.